memorable moments. Okay.
Mhm. When Martin finally decided that he would have to be involved, um, let me start over.
Okay. Go right ahead.
When and the high point of the movement for me was the moment where Martin took the leadership of the movement and essentially threw himself into the forefront. We had written out a plan which he had been a part of, but it wasn't his plan. He'd gone along, done everything we'd suggested doing. We'd raised money. We had about 500 or 600 people in jail, but all of the money was gone, and we couldn't get people out of jail. And the business community, black business community, and some of the white clergy were pressuring us to call off the demonstrations and just get out of town. And we didn't know what to do. And he sat there in room 30 in the Gaston Motel, and he didn't say anything. He listened to people talk for about 2 hours. And then finally, he got up and he went in the bedroom and he came back with his blue jeans on and his jacket. And he said, "Look," he said, "I don't know what to do." He said, "I just know that something has got to change in Birmingham. I don't know whether I can raise money to get people out of jail. I do know that I can go into jail with them." And not knowing how it was going to work out, he walked out of the room and went down to the church and led a demonstration and went to jail. Well, that was, I think, the beginning of his true leadership, uh, because that Sunday, the ministers published in the newspapers a diatribe against Martin, calling him a troublemaker and a communist, and saying that he was there stirring up trouble to get publicity. And he sat down and took that newspaper, and he had no paper, and he was in solitary confinement. And he started writing an answer to that one-page ad around the margins of the New York Times. And by the time it came out 3 days later, it was what we now know as the letter to the Birmingham jail. But he put in concise form exactly what the problems, the moral dilemma of segregation and racism. That, I think, led to a new resurgence of the movement nationally. And in another week, we had thousands of people going to jail. And it was those events that I think brought on the change in America through nonviolent action.
Our series is dealing with the years between 54 and 65. When you assess that time span, what do you think in terms of what the civil rights movement brought to this country?
The changes in America between 54 and 65 were mainly in the black community itself, and I think even more so in black leadership. We did not know what we were doing in 1954. Didn't have the slightest idea. Martin went to Montgomery to try to find a quiet place to finish his PhD dissertation. And by 1965, he knew not only what American racism was all about, but he'd won a Nobel Prize. He was concerned about the war in Vietnam, and he understood the international implications of nonviolence. There was a new consciousness. Black people became a part of the leadership of America. And it's my contention that black people never had to lead. Black leaders don't lead black people. Black leaders have to help lead the white community. You have to interpret the feelings and the focus and the reality of blacks in a particular predicament and whites in a particular predicament to the majority of people who are not involved in any way. And I think Martin could articulate the dilemma, the moral dilemma of racism and segregation, of violence and war and poverty in a nation that really wanted peace and had the potential for plenty.